to another episode of the Content Marketing Cheat Sheet podcast. I'm your host, Nina Villalvaso, and if you want to know how to build your personal brand and gain credibility online and turn passion into profit with content marketing, you came to the right place. And today I want to talk about content. Of course, I want to talk about content. My entire podcast is about content. But more in specific, I want to tell you how to create one core piece of content into 7 more pieces of content for other social media channels. If you're like me, you probably want to publish as much content as possible. I'm a solopreneur, and being everywhere is super important for me. I know that some of my audience is on LinkedIn, some of my audience is on Twitter, but they don't follow me everywhere. And I don't need my followers to follow me everywhere, as long as I push out content on as many social media platforms as possible. I know it sounds crazy, and some of you might think, I don't have the time to create LinkedIn content, Twitter, Pinterest, blog content, and YouTube content. Are you crazy? I'm one person. Well, let me tell you, I'm also just one person. But if you follow the tips and tricks I'm going to show you right now, you can do it as well. This strategy also works great for people who just don't have the time to constantly create new content. So I developed a strategy that takes one core piece of content and chops it up into bite-sized pieces for all your other social media networks. And again, this strategy aims to create just one core piece of content and then create little smaller bite-sized pieces for your other social media networks. And now, if you're asking yourself, what is a core piece? A core piece, and I call it core piece, is a long form piece of content. So that could be a YouTube video, that's a long form YouTube video, or a long form blog post. And I personally like video content because video content is a little bit more versatile. So you have audio, you have the video content itself, but you can also transcribe whatever I say into a blog post. But I'm going to tell you later how to exactly do that. So how to get started? First, you have to determine your core piece. And as I mentioned before, your core piece can be either a long form video or a long form written blog post. Your core piece is your main piece of content that serves as your primary source. So out of that source, you would be creating bite-sized pieces or snackable content for your other social media platforms. And of course, just a side note, the more content you push out there, the more people you can attract and the bigger your chances are of building a following. And once you created your long form content, so let's say you have a video or you have a blog post, you can then create content, for example, for Twitter. And how exactly do you turn a video or blog post into Twitter content? Out of your video or blog post, you can use quotes. So look for a key statement and then put that key statement either straight up as a tweet, or of course you can also put that into a beautiful template that you create, for example, on Canva, and upload that to your Twitter account. So there we have it. We can post on Twitter by utilizing quotes from your video or blog post. You can create reels or TikToks out of your long form video content. So look at your video and chop it up into 15 to 20 second segments and then post that onto your reels or TikToks. Of course, keep in mind, if you take a long form video content and you chop it up into 15 to 20 second videos, you want to make sure that within those 15 to 20 seconds, you deliver something valuable and that makes sense. So meaning, when I only see your 15 to 20 second reel or TikTok and I never seen your long form video content, it still has to make sense what you're saying. So it still has to make sense on the information you're conveying in those 15 to 20 seconds. So overall, those videos should have context and value without ever having to watch your full size video. And if you're saying, I don't really want to create a long form videos, I don't really feel comfortable, I don't have the equipment for it, in this case, read your blog post and see what type of reels could you create out of your long form blog post. And then take your phone, record a 15 to 20 second reel based on whatever you wrote in your blog post, and post that to your TikTok and Instagram account. YouTube. Of course, upload your long form video content onto YouTube. Now again, if you say, well, I don't have equipment to do a YouTube video, and you still want to serve content to YouTube, you can take your phone and basically record yourself reading your blog post and upload that to YouTube. But I just encourage you to get started. If you don't have the perfect setup, you don't have the perfect lights, you don't have the perfect background, still get started. Even if it looks a little bit more raw, I want to say. So let's say you don't have a perfect setup, still get a affordable camera or just do it with your phone, record yourself. I mean, phones are great. They can even record in 4K. Honestly, my camera cannot even record in 4K. So grab your phone, record yourself, and just upload it to YouTube. Next up would be blog. So let's say you are using a YouTube video as your long form content. You can transcribe whatever you're saying in your video and make a blog post out of it. Of course, I'm not saying use the video, transcribe the video, and there you go, there's your blog post. It's not that easy. You still have to read through your blog post, you have to add headlines, you have to structure your blog post, and you probably have to remove a few words because the way you talk is a little bit different compared to the way you would write. And if you want to learn more about how to properly structure a blog post, how to come up with awesome content ideas, and to really gain credibility online, check out my online course. And you can find the link in my bio. It's worth it. Check it out. I dumped in all my knowledge. It's a total brain dump on how to get started online and to really build your personal brand. Another way you can push out content is by creating a podcast. And I know that a podcast seems scary. You might think like, oh my God, a podcast? Like, no way I'm going to do this. But hold on. If you're already creating a video, you can just extract the audio. And you have the audio, you can upload that to a podcast medium. So for example, I create video content. You know that my core piece is video. What I do, I just extract the audio from my video. I add a beginning and an ending to my podcast. And there we go. It's a finished podcast. I upload it to Spotify podcast, to Apple podcast, to Google podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And that allows me to reach even more people. So if your core piece is video, simply extract the audio and upload it to a podcast. And if you think about, I don't want to create video content, that's totally fine. If you still want to create a podcast experience, or if you still want to create podcast content, you can simply get a microphone. You can already find great microphones. They're in the $50, $60 range, so you don't need to splurge on a $200, $300 microphone, and you can get started with a podcast. All you have to do is plug that cable into your computer, start recording yourself, for example, on GarageBand. That's free if you're a Mac user, and you can just read out loud your blog post. So just read whatever you wrote in your blog post and then upload that to a podcast medium. And there you go. You have a podcast now. Next up, infographics. You can turn your video or your blog post into an infographic. Infographics are great online. You can post them on LinkedIn, you can post them to Twitter, and of course you can post them to Pinterest. Pinterest users love infographics. And infographics are great to quickly consume your content, to get the main points, and if someone clicks on the infographic, it directs them to your longer form content. So meaning it will direct them to your core piece, whether this is your video or that is your blog post. And the seventh and final piece is your email newsletter. So use snippets out of your video or your blog post to create an email newsletter. But be careful, do not use the entire blog post or do not use the entire video for your email newsletter. Again, you only want to give the user snackable pieces of content that makes them want to watch your full-size video or that wants to make them consume more of your content. Regardless on whether you're posting something to Twitter, YouTube, to your blog, to your podcast, creating an infographic, or sending out an email newsletter, you always want to include a link. You want to include a link that directs them back to your core piece so they can consume the full video or read the entire blog post. And of course, you can create multiple tweets out of your blog post. You can create multiple infographics out of your blog or your video. So if you create a lot of infographics and if you create a lot of tweets, you do not always have to link them back to your core piece. But for the first round of content, I recommend linking them back to your core piece so you can just get that traffic onto those channels. linking back to your core piece also allows more credibility, and people know like, hey, you have a blog, or hey, you have a YouTube channel. That's awesome. And this way they can discover even more content that you created. So this strategy is really designed to help you save tons of time, especially if you're a solopreneur. Trust me, I know what it is to be a solopreneur. And I can tell you, I also know what it's like to be a solopreneur that still has a 9-to-5 job. If you follow me for some time, you know I still have a full-time job. The Social Wisdom, as of right now, is just my side gig. I spend every minute that I have building my business. But again, I need to find ways that are very efficient, very time-saving, so I can produce as much content as possible while still not overworking myself in that sense. And this strategy, by using one core piece and chopping it up into little pieces, will definitely help you to save time. And this strategy is definitely a win-win situation, because this allows you to constantly post fresh content onto your social media channels, which will engage your followers. And of course, I mentioned that in my other past videos, you should always create unique content for your social media channels. And if you just use a quote, or if you post certain reels, let's say out of the video, out of your blog post, you create 10 reels or short form content, you can post 5 of them to TikTok, and you can post 5 of them to Instagram, to make sure that each social media platform still has unique content. Creating one piece of content, whether it's a YouTube video or a blog post, will help you to cater to more social media platforms, helping to increase your brand's visibility online, and then increasing your following. So you can do all of those amazing things by saving time. And that led us yet again to another episode of the Content Marketing Cheat Sheet podcast. I'm so glad you tuned in today, and I can't wait to see you again. If you enjoyed what you watched today, hit the subscribe button, give me thumbs up, and let's connect online. Follow me on Twitter, slide into my DMs on Instagram, or let's connect on TikTok. I can't wait to see you again. Until next time, goodbye. How we say in Germany, auf Wiedersehen.